But the only point of importance, in my opinion, is 20, 30 data feeds through Amazon and Bing, etc. Ask what it involves, you know, to know, so you don't give them simple. If it is more complicated.
When he said that, how did he bring that up? We also get feeds.
Well, yeah, he said data feeds. We also have data feeds, 20 to 30 data feeds through different things like Bing and Amazon. So the technician is going to be on this call, or the technology guy.
Okay. Good. That's the best calls for us. So. Is it worthwhile to ask them, you know, now or by default, scheduling everything for half hour just because people are less scared to accept it? Is it a problem? You think it's smart to say in the beginning, I want to let you know we're scheduled for half an hour, but we have no hard stops. We have an hour?
Yeah.
You think it's worthwhile or just a waste of time?
No, no. You say, if you would like, you know, to extend it, today we can.
Okay.
Just say it like this in such a way that you can do it if there is interest. If there is no interest, there is no reason to.
And no DCI was mentioned, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Hey, DCI, if you see, the best way to explain it's just that chart. Just that chart, nothing else.
Good.
Simple, he understands.
Simple, it doesn't have to be complicated as long as...
We can't do that with the analytics, but yeah.
No, I understand. And for him, I would go with this because he is into e-commerce. This is a high volume, and they compete with everyone, including Fiasco.
I just want to close them. If we have to go less pricing.
No, this is good. I mean, 8 million, they should be able to have all these products. They should be able
I'm just saying, I just want to, did I mention pilot? Any pilot discussion?
No, but now mention it. Yeah. Yep, you did not. You mentioned, what you mentioned for them is price match. We price match. You mentioned it twice, Omniture and
they use core metrics too, or not?
No, they use Discover and Monotake.
Different
and Adobe Genesis.
Okay. Just so you know, we probably can't do a lot with data. They can for the other. I mean, Adobe has 1,000 of these, but we can get much deeper into analytics. But the difference with some of those products is when they see feeds, they can automatically do things that aren't hard to do, but they can do much more things. That's all. Just for me to not get. Maybe Justin should be on this call for.
Okay, good to. Just tell him. Yeah, I'll get them.
Let me make sure he's
on them yet. I will.
Okay. So this is with James and who else?
Chris Fowler.
He kept saying, I remember now, he kept saying, Chris should be on this call. Chris should be on this call.
Yep.
James Callaway, Salisbury. I remember this call went very good.
Salisbury.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, hi, James.
Hello, hi, James.
Last time.
Maybe.
Hello?
Hello?
but not working.
No, it just means he has opened it up on his computer. It's not even noon yet. They open on his computer and he walks away.
Oh.
This is it.
Hello.
Hi, is this James?
Yep, I have James Salisbury here, and then I also have my marketing director, Chris Fowler, and then our marketing specialist, Josh Fleming.
This is Patrick from UPCO with INAD as well. How are you guys?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, just typical Thursday. So first off, I wanted to verify. Are you guys? You guys can see your website on the main screen?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we're good in that regard. You know, the first thing I'd like to do, James, on our end, you know, we talked for a bit last time we met. I'd like to hear your takeaway based off our next meeting to make sure, based off our last meeting to make sure we're proceeding in a straightforward line on our end. So basically from where you guys are at and, hello?
In regards to
what you'd like to see
on SEO.
in regards.
Actually, we just want to see what's what you guys offer. What's a solution that you know, something potentially that Bellacor should look at.
Okay.
I don't know if we've really talked previously. I know we communicated once or twice in email. Maybe we did on phone. But it's been kind of hectic around here, so I don't recall a whole lot of that information we did.
Okay, so I'll start with an overview. That's usually first step is a 15 minutes overview showing you a few examples of what we do and how it benefits you. So I was just making sure if you guys have already had internal talks regarding there, if we should just kind of open up base again. So.
Yeah, might as well just start off fresh and take it from there.
Okay, great. So on that end, to preface my takeaway, we discussed that we are an advanced analytics solution. You guys had referenced a few Adobe Omniture type products you're using, and that one of your biggest internal concerns is tracking with PPC in particular. And I'll open right there. That was my takeaway from our last conversation. So there's a few in-depth questions and the need to get a couple people on the line, which obviously is done on your end. So to preface what, so we're UPCO's a digital marketing intelligence company. We have a couple different platforms. One of them is an advanced analytics product. Once again, our other platform correlates to getting competitive intelligence on keywords and basically knowing what your competitors are doing through the internet from a technology and marketing standpoint. I'm going to spend about 10 minutes showing our analytics, 5 minutes showing our other module, and please feel free to interrupt me at any time. So
That sounds good.
No problem. So to get to the point, our biggest differentiator on the analytics side, we are the first company to capture the entire customer experience from a data perspective on a website. So to elaborate there, traditional analytics are set up through HTTP logs. Basically, a record is recorded when something significant happens on the site, when a resource is loaded, such as when you go to page, a record is created. In your case, if you have an add to cart, or if you click particular elements on the site, a record is denoted. That lets you guys search through and use to get different kinds of analysis. What we're doing that differentiates there is we invented a data source that I write the word, "Hi, my name is Patrick," on your form. I press delete, and I write Bob. We're going to be storing in that example over 1,000 individual data points that allow you to look at each text character individually, have a timestamp for each one, so you would know what was my typing speed in this scenario, when did I press delete, what's all my information pre-submit in additional to after you click search, and if I selected and deleted versus if I pressed delete a few times. So we're doing that. That's one example, not a high-value example, but the point there is we're doing this with all mouse movement, we're doing it with clicks, text selection, and usually most relevant to businesses is text data pre-submit on each individual field and form. Any questions on that end, or does that make sense for the most part?
So that all makes sense, and now I do recall our previous conversation based off that example. Sorry about the misfire there.
Yeah, all of our schedules are a mess. This is how all this stuff works. I just go off my notes, same as you, so no problem. So that all correlated to what we're doing from a data source perspective before we show how we use that. So so we can basically anything you happen on the site's being stored individually. The other end of that coin is because we're storing all this information, we are also recreating the record as it occurred from your client's view. It's of note here that if you want within our system, anytime you want to watch an actual session to supplement the data you're on, you basically can play all of your records as well. So if you guys are deep into a conversion funnel, deep into a particular, key point indicator where you want more insight, why the hell are these people coming from mobile, from Safari? Why are these people having such bad conversions on our site? Let's stop and take a closer look to understand their experience. So this example here is just, I'll let it play for a few seconds, is just a typical view you get from a desktop computer in this case. You would be able to see everything that happened and pick up more nonverbal cues than you could through data. The nice part here is because I stress the data point first because it's not as self-explanatory. Because this is being created off individual data, of course all this information is searchable on a macro basis as well. If you discover a couple pain points, you can do a search throughout your entire traffic history and either pull up specific scenarios to watch in a video or just pull up specific scenarios with correlations of what's the average bounce percentage for this scenario. So the videos help a lot in discovery, user experience, as well as just kind of understanding things that you can't from data. So usability-wise, I'll let you know every link I'm going to be showing you in this demo. It's all pretty strategically integrated. You don't need to go in 10 different dashboards to watch videos individually. That's one of our bigger assets is from a usability standpoint. Anytime you click this button on the bottom right, what it's doing is not zooming out completely. It's recreating in the exact resolution your client saw. So if a client was using a tiny computer on this end, this would be showing in the exact view, just to make sure you understand any CSS or any responsive design issues. So what's usually a bigger interest for most companies these days is when it comes down to how deep we go into mobile. Because I did mention that we do customize this for different devices and experiences. So what you're going to be seeing here is the recreation of mobile traffic with a focus on finger movements. So the blue you're going to see here is basically the way fingers are interacting from a mobile device on your website.
And as an analyst, I find that fascinating. But I know my director would question what is the value for an e-commerce site and knowing that. Well, I suppose you could argue it's page layout and things of that nature, correct?
Yeah, page layout, or it would be having a different responsive design for your mobile to say, hey, people on mobile are only interacting with our site for 5 seconds versus 30 seconds on our normal computer. We probably should keep our call to action a lot simpler on a retail site. We don't want them to have all this information that they would on them. So that, that's one example, but that's the end of our discussion is the usage after you get across, capability.
Right.
Any other questions on that end, or you want me to keep on moving forward?
No, you can keep on moving forward.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to be showing you here is, I hadn't mentioned, it's, proprietary technology, the last couple of views I showed on what we're doing with the mobile. This is as well. What this is it's an example of your live recreation of current traffic. So if you want to highlight either your entire site or a particular segment of your site, you want to go in our system and create a tag or label to say, I want to know why people from China who've made 10 past purchases, what's going on, why aren't they buying anymore? You can select the segment, you can click View Live Traffic Actively, and it's going to pull up if you had 5 current users on your site from China with any other segment, you would be able to see what they're doing on your site. So the point here is, this color here is just showing a segmentation system. I'll preface that later on, but the point is this is your live traffic as it's happening, allowing you to focus on any individual or segment. And by default, we have live chat integrated here. We can integrate any other kind of engagement protocols or technologies if you guys wanted to engage your high traffic or just take a real-life testing of usability on a particular part of your site. So just all basic showing this from this view, and once again, it all comes down to, what you're currently doing and how this could add value at the end. So just usability-wise, this is all integrated within the analytics as well. This isn't a separate platform or module, so anytime you're looking at data from a main dashboard, you can switch over to live view. So.
Okay.
So what I'm showing you here is, we have a web-based application. Traditional deployment is pretty standardized. You're individually tagging each page. You can create events for anything you want in particular. And we have, a macro-level view in addition to all of the deeper views I showed before. So what I'm going to show here before we take questions on, what we can do with this data is show you a basic transgression of how we use, data analysis with the videos in a usual case. So here we have, a normal analytics dashboard. Difference here is you can define this much deeper metrics. Instead of traffic source breakdown, you could create the KPI, people who pause for 5 seconds after adding something to my cart, and create all these as numbers. It's all very flexible, but we're not throwing too much at you by default. So I want to look at a particular segment of my site. So here I had selected individual people who came from google.com to our site. We're creating an individual data record with the information by default we think might be valuable for each of these records. And you click session flow, you're able to see all of the pages within that particular session. What's nice here is, let's say you're viewing a particular action and you're taking a look at 61 different sessions within that segment. You click customer here, we're going to switch and create a different record on a customer per customer basis instead. So if you had 8 customers with 60 different sessions or website visits, you would be able to go seamlessly from that same segment back and forth in those views. You can also do this on a page-by-page basis. If you see, 6 people had 61 different sessions, came from Google, then you wanted to look at each individual page, which would be a higher number than the sessions. You can go back and forth within a particular segment. We click play here. I'm not going to show it. You've seen it. Plays that individual session out. What else we can do is, if we click view details here, this is the last view I'm going to be showing you guys. I'm going to grab a better example. This isn't a very loyal customer. So, but yeah, you see the transgression. So what you're going to be seeing here is a case where you had an anonymous visitor come to your site 84 past times. You have their entire experience from one view, directly linkable. So what this means is it's a larger view to kind of view what happened. We take a snapshot of every page on your site in addition to just having a data record, a thumbnail. So sometimes it's just easier when you're trying to figure out things. If you have long, ugly-looking leak names, you can switch them out to thumbnails. That's what this example is. Have a
Brandon, just to
Go ahead.
just to clarify, this is the individual level, or is this the segment level?
This is
go ahead.
So once you define a segment, I was in my last view beforehand. So if you define a segment from this view, that's an individual breakdown once a segment's defined. So if you create a tag or label a segment, that would update the records. Once you have the records updated, this is an individual client's history. So this is the same user, all in this view.
Great.
That make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And I recall from our last conversation, it would help us identify the high-value customers and, figure out exactly what they're doing, how we can cater to them better.
Yeah, absolutely. Or customer service. People are using this as well within customer servicing, depending on outside of analytics, sometimes with their CRM tools integration, because if they're having customer service, having to call the tech department, if you have a client that says, I only paid $50 for this product, you scam artist charged me $500, I can go directly in their history here, and I have that in every past session from that client linked from this page. So I can go back and say, what was that, sir? You said on 12/10 you really made, a purchase for this much, and it's your call whether you'd want to share this with them. Usually I'll tell you they don't want to share it. It's better just to kind of know internally this person's either not accurate or, it's worth taking a closer look at. So these are all capabilities on this introduction level, and then, you can talk about use. So I think this is usability-wise a big feature for us. If we're looking personally at high-value clients or anyone you want to take a closer look at it, just all different ways to tell the story of what they've done, both with data, can all be accumulated here through more macro level views, and if you want to dig to fix a problem, that's where it is. So,
okay.
Any question on those views? Anything from your guys' end?
Anything? No.
We're good?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. Couple questions for you guys. Are you guys currently using conversion funnels or heat maps as regular insight within your website?
Yeah, we use conversion funnels. We don't necessarily use heat maps, because the ones that are available through Omniture aren't. They were really just measuring the page location. Our links and our content will change out from week to week. So we like to look at things, kind of at the link level rather than the location level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, you do even get by element as opposed to by page position in a raw, because it's going to keep dynamically updating on your end.
Right.
I guess so that's how we're set up. By the way, I'm going to keep this up fairly quick because you're familiar with both of those things are. Big difference here is if you define a conversion funnel. Let's say you defined a conversion funnel that said from homepage to lighting pictures to purchase. Traditionally the point of a funnel for a retail site is you want to take a much closer look at your actual checkout process. So if we define that funnel and we extended that to be a few pages on your checkout process, let's say you saw that 100 visitors this past month, you can't figure out why they're not finishing their transaction. They've already said committed to buy, they filled out a lot of information, then they left your site. Traditional conversion funnels, it's great to get that number of 100 people, but you kind of have to go back to the drawing board and dig through their data to try to fix the problem. In our case, one of the best uses of the videos is we have our videos directly integrated within the conversion funnel. So in that example here, we can focus on the actual, the people who aren't doing what you want them to do, the abandoned visitors, and we can kind of answer those questions in a lot of cases without having to do deeper analysis. In this example here, I see someone who fell out of my conversion funnel, and I see that we had a website-generated error that created that. So I tell my tech team, they're full of it. I tell my marketing team, this isn't docked on you, This is just kind of common sense analysis when it comes to all of these deeper views, and an asset of being able to see the video, because what I would do in this case, of course, is then I would dig through some statistics and logs to see how often that error is recreated, and is it because this person used Firefox? Is it because of, what caused this problem? How do we fix it? And that's going to definitely solve our problems easier than just digging through data. So, On this note as well, what I clicked from this view is, in this example, this was on a particular text field. By default, we have form interaction stored individually. So what this is if someone filled out information, in this case they wrote DF. Next page they put in an email address. Next page they have more information. We record if they're abandoned or submitted here as well. It's just an example of a lot deeper insight view. We have a few customizations in this regard for retail in particular on your process if you want to only look at what was filled out and abandoned as opposed to digging through data once again. So that's usually something that's of interest to anyone in retail, because personally that's how I would use is, you want to take a closer look at your conversion purchasing process, because dollars can be associated a lot more than figuring out, someone who came to your site in the first step.
Right. Yeah, and like you mentioned, going down to the cart level and, seeing where people are having issues with what fields within the cart, well, just a little change there can make a big difference in conversion rate, which would translate into a lot more revenue. So.
Yeah, that's the point of analytics, figuring those things out. There's no easy answers. It's just better insight to detect that. So.
Right, exactly.
I'm, for the most part, done with our other details. You guys, other details I'll say is I believe our reporting engines are actually pretty similar. I think we modeled them after Site Catalyst in a few ways. We have reporting modules. You can email information. You can export it in a few different varieties, change the graphing. All this stuff is also linked to videos as well. We have a few views. We have a few views I don't have in this default screen, but if we want to take a deeper dig into individual site analysis, that's usually, another meeting. We can spend as long as you guys want, but I'm just going to do a quick comb over to say we do have a few macro-based tools. And while we're at it, I'll also tell you that the majority of our clients initially do take a pilot test with us, particularly if they're using either a core metrics or a Site Catalyst, because of the amount of build usually needed to implement those products. They'll usually take a pilot initially for a short period, because our code is not going to conflict with anything you're currently doing. You might want to add this on only your conversion process over a 3-month duration without commitment on either end. And then after that, the liability would be on our end. We would include a bit of servicing time internally, and we would create a few custom analytics on one of your pages to say, here's what you couldn't have determined with your current analytics technology, and we're going to correlate it a bit to, this confidence. We have confidence, security, hesitation, a few other customized things based on a form. So want to mention to get that out of the way for our next step, is that's usually where most companies are going to be at if you guys have quite a bit of time and resources invested into one data structure. So. Yep,
yeah, and that hits the nail on the head there. And I believe last time we spoke, you mentioned that trial. Was the cost on that right around 30? I seem to be thinking that. Unfortunately, I left my notes at my desk. But is that the ballpark figure there?
Yeah, but I mean, I told you that it's variable based on website traffic. Based on the numbers you gave me on a 3-month basis, that's pretty close there. So it would be 30 up front if we're talking about your entire website based off what you said. And that would take no commitment on either end past that, and no conflict with anything else you're currently using. So.
And what if we did that and we're like, hey, we really like this? Then is that 30 built into the yearly fee, or if we decide to go full on with it, would that just be an incremental cost in addition to that 30?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be prorated directly. It would be applied to the total bill. The next step on our end would be we would add a piece of code to your site for a day to get an accurate variable monthly number, because our hard cost is data load, where we have 1,000 times the data stored. But our hard cost is, I usually ask, you guys, I'm sure, could give me the monthly unique page views you get. What's harder is our cost is how much actual engagement and movement time is on these for how much data we have to create. So we would have a 1-day test, be able to give you a firm number, and then have a year. It would be a year commitment at that point, and it would probably be a 5 to 8 week setup time on our end to deploy. So that's, right. And I'll tell you point blank, we have a lot of, all of our large enterprises, they all want to take the pilot before taking the step. And I appreciate that as well, because it's not wasting each other's time. And on your end, if you're not sure about the direct metrics that can be applied. It gives us the time to customize that for your site, so.
Right. And what was the page load delay? I seem to want to say it's between 300 to 800 milliseconds. Does that sound right?
2 to 3. It's less than Google Analytics by default. These things are all, particular on circumstance, but that's the biggest struggle from all the larger, including, we've spoken to the Adobes, the IBMs quite a few times in the last period, and that's what they think is the difficulty on our end, more than the generation of what we've done is able to deploy all this information on that script. So it's going to be the same as traditional analytics, pretty minuscule, but we can also give you that number after the one-day page load for your site because it's going to differ. So.
Sure, and just going back to the channel breakdowns, I saw we had organic, paid, and direct, and a couple other ones there, I think, in the demo here, in the reporting look. We have, Josh, how many different programs do you think we have? About 57? 52. So we have 52 different programs, which range from direct to traditional paid to organic paid to organic, and then many other ones. And would this tool be sophisticated enough to show those 52 different channel/programs that Bellacor is trying to get traffic from?
And that you're talking about, last we spoke, I actually remember from the notes, you'd mentioned feeds from a lot of other search engines. Is that what you're referring to, direct feeds?
Yeah, and Josh is our feed master here, and we have multiple different Google ones, we have different Bing ones, we have things going to sites like HGTV and coming back to us. And
yeah, I'll tell you, just from an integration standpoint, everything you see on our end is all from, this is all built in-house. It's all built in one unified database. So we're able to integrate with, I don't think we've not been able to integrate with any third-party integration or feed. It's straightforward, but I would probably be more comfortable having an integration expert address those in more technical detail if you guys wanted to dig. So, but I will tell you, I can say a yes on the surface level. If you wanted to customize the stat to say feeds that came from Google, and you also wanted to integrate a tag from our site, who also had a hard bounce that we're going to define as 25 seconds in this time, and they haven't visited our site in 3 months. You could create that as its own individual metric. These are obviously ridiculous examples, but the point is we have the exclusive capability to go as deep as you want to go. You want to use form, fill out, hesitation, and the way that's practically used, in your guys' case with the retail, very common, what we've been able to detect is concerns with security before purchase. If you see someone who's about to buy something and they move their mouse for a few seconds over your security details, then they leave your site, a lot of times that just lets you know, in that case, I probably want to add a seal or a little confirmation tag that says trusted by X amount of companies, or click here to understand how our data is processed, So that's a more practical example. We could use that as an analytic on the front end, reporting dashboard, et cetera. So.
Okay. And then another thing I brought up last time we talked was testing. So we're currently using Monotate, and what I'm getting at is, so our system will see it's just one page, but we actually have two different treatments of the page going on, where there's a 50-50 split of, half visitors see this rendition, the other half see this other one. Would OpGo be able to say, okay, this is version 1 of that page, this is version 2, and then when it's having its video playback, is it showing the actual session at the visitor level, or is it using kind of a template of the page as the background and it's just replaying the cursor or the click recording?
So I think in my mind, I remember, those are kind of two separate questions. The second one is, are we dynamically generating the source each time? So basically, if you guys change your code and it delivers differently for one customer versus another, is it going to show accurately, or are we just taking one generic picture and playing what happens? Is that accurate? Yeah, that's a huge differentiator. We have a competitor we get confused by a lot who does that, and we're storing your. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term viewport, but we're accurately displaying the viewport in each case, which means if you change your site in each instance, it's going to show up accurately. We're not just taking a generic image. image. We're storing it custom each time. Your second question was, yeah, we had discussed this. Now I'm getting my memory as well. You guys are currently doing A/B testing on, you're talking about deploying the way either a page loads or having a pop-up such as to determine the better placement of content. Is that the long story short? Or did I get confused with the first one?
There are many different ways we'll go about it. Like currently we do have a light box out there or a pop-up, but we're also planning tests where we're actually moving different elements on pages for different versions. So,
are you guys using? You'd already mentioned. I know Adobe does that through Nbox Create. Yeah, we do that. We do that on both levels. It's not in our default offering. That is custom pricing on our end, but we allow A/B testing as well as multivariate to be integrated with any of these modules, to be integrated within your tagging system is the usual scenario. We have, a tagging system to define a metric. From there, we will set up the next step. Reason we don't do it out of the box is really more for load. There's a lot of companies that do that, and they'll use a 1998 JavaScript deployment with, a pop-up that gets blocked for those kind of things. And we had it out of the box initially, but we figured out it's a lot easier to say, what do you want to do? Let us do it, and maybe take, maybe take 20 to 30 hours tops internally, regardless of how detailed of a multivariate test you want, and keep the load as lightweight as possible. So that is offered to us, but it would not, usually we, if you want to make that request for the pilot, I would have to get approval to make sure it's not going to be redoing the wheel on our end, so.
Okay, and I also seem to recall, like in terms of your larger clients, I think you said maybe a 40-60 split between the ones who are opting to go with OpGo as an alternative to Omniture or Core Metrics as opposed to enhancing what they currently have with it. Is that correct? So 60% has this in addition to other analytics.
It's a lot higher than that since our last talk. They've been, I'll tell you, they're extremely large, the much larger, we sign NDAs with, if we even add your code on our site, our next step would be signings. We can't give a lot of information, but I can tell you one we have permission to say is Target.com as an example, is, they're at I believe they're in the 10 billion monthly view level. All of the people who are much, much higher in traffic are always going to go with us in addition. We're still in the testing phase with them, but we need a longer pilot. But I would actually almost you guys would absolutely be able to switch us over as a whole, but we've learned to adjust and ask for something that's more reasonable to make it less of a headache. But I would say 65-35 off the top of my head for people who would want to supplement, and that's all if they're using what I consider the Adobe and the IBM Core Metrics as the two big enterprise players who can do a lot more with data, people who are making those kind of commitments initially. So.
Sure, okay. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, well, honestly, this is the first time Josh and Chris had seen this, so I think my next step will be to circle back with them and get their take on it and see if they think this is a good fit and what our next step should be.
Great. Yeah, I know, we did have the meeting scheduled half an hour. Is it worth it? I hadn't brought the other side of the coin on our end. I can explain fairly quickly on the competitive intelligence. You guys have another 5 to 10 minutes, or you guys have a hard stop?
Yeah, sure. We can continue.
All right, great. So, yeah,
and I will mention that a lot of our SEM, SEM stuff is third party. So they're handling the competitive stuff on their end. That's how our current view of the world is. But I think there's value for us to understand ourselves what our competition's doing and how they're trending.
Yeah, you'll probably want to. Yeah, in that case too, like all these things, I'm going to show top-level differentiators. When it comes to practical use, that's another discussion if there's interest. So our big differentiator between any tool you're using on the market is we have, James or Ron, you yourself understand you have a bit of SEO background, right?
Right.
Okay. So common sense-wise, Google, Bing, every mainstream search index, the liability is on a website to get indexed. So basically, you need to get their attention by either being directly linked to another website or by or by pinging them directly, But the long story short of this is they don't have every website in their index. It's estimated they have approximately 30 million for Google out of 180 million active websites. UPGO, the last 6 years, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. The last 6 years, we've been building our own index, and long story short, we have 180 million in every domain on the internet. We're storing their source code from the public level into one unified database, and through there coming up with algorithms on a company-by-company basis of the information they'd like to know about their competitors and industry. So that's the differentiator when it comes to total sample size, because I don't know who you guys are using. Alexa is one of the larger players out there who has 30 million as well. A lot of the sites have maybe 1 million total websites, and it's usually not on their front level, what the limitations are. So that's the source we're going to be referring to in the example I'm showing you here. So what this is our particular deployment using this database is you guys would want to highlight your 3 key competitor websites. We would be monitoring their traffic increases and decreases on a weekly or monthly incremental basis. And this is absolutely not all of your personal information is protected. This is using third-party estimation sources. It's obviously not as detailed as analytics, but it's going to be in the ballpark. So you see that one of your customers has a 40% traffic rank over the next month. We also have stored what we consider impact changes within their source code, meaning if we see you had 50 million more Facebook likes the last month and your traffic went up 40%, you guys should probably take a closer look to see if you can utilize a similar strategy. That applies to technologies used. If you use Google Analytics, you're going to see that information in your source code. You use Omniture, depending on how your tagging system's set up, you're going to see that. So we're storing that information and just giving it to you on a benchmarking basis against what you guys are doing. The other end of that coin is on the industry level beneath here. You guys see what I'm selecting. The point of this is if you want to highlight your key competitors, you can define it as 2, 10, what usual number I'll say is 3 to 5. You can also have a broader look on your industry. So if you want to define your competitors as people using the word lamps within their title and have been registered over the last 5 years and have a certain traffic rank. Let's say you guys gave us that filter and we saw that there's 50,000 competitors. You would say, I want to take a more broad look at my competitors as a whole, and I want to know their average page load speed updated every month. I want to know the common technologies that have been used over the last month, such as I invent XYZ technology tomorrow, your competitors are using it and having success. It just gives automated awareness into digging a bit deeper. So that's our long story short there on this, but we have this within the same modules, the analytics, and we give you guys quite a bit of flexibility to define these algorithms and monitoring ends on our end. So.
And I may have missed it, but what qualifies as emerging content?
Where are we? Are we here?
Let's see. Yep, right there.
So I usually don't get that deep into this scenario, so no problem. So this example here was global. So this is across all 180 million websites. In this case, emerging content was defined as we took the use of using Go Mobile versus upgrade to mobile for every website on the internet and correlated how many people had switched from that to that. That's, I guess, the emerging end. But the truth is all this stuff we have defaults, but all this stuff would be usually an hour conversation about what your company's KPIs are, what you want to know, and then we would custom build that into all these updates. But anything within the source code for your technicians to know that's detectable, that's how you can customize this dashboard. So.
All right. I think there's a lot of good information that can be gained from this competitive intelligence. Yeah, we'll have to see if it's a good fit. I like it, but, we'll have to see. Because this is obviously more than, just looking at keywords, and it's looking at trends from your competition and what they're doing. Because, here's an example. Lately, we've noticed one of our competitive brands is just ramping up huge with SEO traffic. Mm-hmm. Do we know why? No, we don't. Would we like to know why? Yeah, we sure would.
Yeah, so we can, I need to, on my end, we have a few different modules seen as well. The long story short is any question you ask, are you able to do this? If you can detect it within the source code for an active website, the answer is yes. Our biggest asset here is really the precision, because we're not trying to have you add a card on a $50 charge. You're able to customize these, and we have the flexibility to adjust to the deepest requests. So it takes, it'll take a few hours to set up this dashboard, but once it's set and forget. So.
Okay.
We have a lot of keyword discovery. I'm going to cut myself off here. Here's one other view. We're storing all of the, we're storing from every mainstream search engine the common key terms, not the ones that are submitted but are entered in. We have this integrated in a few different ways as well. So it's just kind of an example to say we understand how to derive value from these tools. So most large companies are using quite a few of them, but we just kind of say, same as the analytics product, what can we replace? So. That's it on my end. If you guys have any questions.
I don't know if you can answer this based off what you previously stated, but Best Buy, someone you're working with as well?
I'm sorry? One more time?
I don't know if you can answer this, based off the NDAs and whatnot, but is Best Buy one of your clients?
No, they're not. I probably have to ask Lee. I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say that. So we're not working with Best Buy. So. All right, so it sounds like, obviously there's been no other questions behind you, James. I'm sure you guys are taking it in, but it sounds like on my end, the next step here would be to send you a bit more information about the analytics. Would you like a quick overview of the digital competitive intelligence to possibly forward to another department or even have potentially dig deeper in the future?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like I said, there could be huge opportunities with that. So it definitely wouldn't hurt.
Okay, so on my end, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and send you a couple docs separated, real short, few pages outlining each different benefit, and I will also attach the pilot proposal letter to give you, a ballpark of how that would be structured. And if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly, and we can dig deeper if we want in the next call, or we can just go back and forth through email. So.
Right. And do you guys have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, sounds good.
All right. Nice talking to you guys. Have a good day, and hopefully talk soon. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.